Today I'm with a very, very special guest in the world of snooker, a living legend, and a man who's broken more records than I care to remember, mainly because most of them are mine. The 7 times world professional snooker champion, Stephen Hendry. Stephen, welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming along. We seem to have sat opposite each other so many times, I feel like I know you, but in a way I don't know you. And also I think in a similar situation to myself during the 80s, because of the standard of play that we've produced in a time, the winning standard, we've had to keep quite controlled when we've been on the television. So I think sometimes the public don't actually know us as we are.
Yeah.
So do you feel the same sort of thing? You play snooker, but nobody actually knows what you're like.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, you know, because obviously we've been sort of famous for being miserable sods basically at the table, not smiling and stuff. And I get it all the time. You know, why don't you smile more? And you know, I was walking through the airport as well one day, and just as you do on your own, putting your stuff through the X-ray machine, and collected my bag and my cue and whatever, and walked off up the stairs, and I heard them saying, "God, he's as miserable in real life as he is on the telly." I mean, people expect you, I think, because you're famous, to be walking everywhere with a permanent grin on your head, but you get locked up. But, I mean, if you're standing in an airport on your own waiting for your bags to come through, you know, you're not smiling, in it. It's not the funniest thing in the world.
After a 12-hour journey.
Yeah, but people expect, you know, Stephen, come on, it might never happen and stuff like that.
I got chinned once in a nightclub. I was just standing having a drink. Okay, I don't know how many world championships I was on at the time. Standing having a drink at the time when I was my most hated throughout the 80s. When I got
your peak.
I was at my peak of being hated. I'd had enough wins that people had got fed up with me winning. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm in the nightclub on my own, just having a drink. 1 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, bang! I don't know where it came from. I never even saw the guy. He decided he hated me, chinned me, and ran off. Which I thought was a bit unfair, really.
It's not nice. I mean, I mean, I've even played, you know, Jimmy and Ronnie in Scotland and had the crowd supporting them, which sometimes it's not nice, really. You're from Scotland, and you obviously, you know, before me, without being big-headed, there was no Scottish snooker players. Nobody won any tournaments. Nothing happened. Whenever a Scottish pro got on telly, they basically collapsed. You know, but you know, I was proud of the fact that I was the first Scotsman to do anything in snooker. But when those sort of things happen, you sort of think, you know, I've put the country on a sort of map sort of thing, and you know, I've been successful, and I'm proud to be Scottish, but you just get on with it.
In a way, it's the biggest compliment you could get as well.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. I mean, I think, you know, somebody said it about you. He says, "You've never been so popular, you're not winning tournaments." You know, I don't like to remind you, but you know, that's the things that I'm weighing on now. You know, there has been, you know, when I went through my sort of slump last year, of not winning tournaments for a while, you know, I was starting to get the crowd sort of swaying towards me again, and it was at Sheffield last year. I definitely noticed the difference from obviously winning 5 in a row. By the end of that, you know, people were just, you know, willing me to lose, I think. But last year I noticed them coming back to me, which was nice.
I think I've found something I think perhaps there are a percentage of people who don't like people younger to get successful. And I think it's also to do with age as well. I don't know if you find it. As I've got older, it may be to do with the fact that I'm not one anything. No. It may be to do with that. But it also may be the fact that people can accept people being successful if they're a little bit older. But nobody likes somebody young to be good. Because then that's everything in a way they might not be.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I think basically you're just being too clever. I think when you're winning too often, they're sick of the sight of your face and they want someone else to come along. I think it's just ever since I worked in any sport, I think we're a nation of sort of underdog supporters, and you know, I don't think we're ever going to get away from that. I think deep down, I mean, I think they do appreciate how, you know, someone, you know, being successful in that, but I just think they sort of grudgingly, they don't want to show it. They don't want to say, you know, come up saying, "Well done, you're brilliant," or "You've done really well." They'd rather, you know, take the mick at you some way.
Well, let's talk about your winning, because it's been because it's been a phenomenon in the 90s. The standard you produced has been, I don't know in your own eyes how you view it, but I think you pushed the barriers of snooker back further than anybody else from the point of view of the prolific scoring rate, not just tournament wins, the century breaks you've made. But let's start as a junior player. Were you a prolific junior winner?
No, I wasn't. As a junior or as a senior amateur, I was nothing out of the ordinary. I used to travel down south to play in amateur tournaments. You know, my father and I used to get the train down to King's Cross and then go out to Essex, you know, and clubs there and playing pro-ams, because the amateur game was big in those days. There was a lot of money to be won, but invariably I used to lose in the first round. I'd be back in the train, you know, that night going back to Scotland. I had a poor record as an amateur. I only played in the World Amateur once and didn't qualify for the second stages. So, you know, even in my first year as a professional, you know, I wasn't setting the world alight.
But you had potential, obviously.
Yeah, I think that obviously the talent was there, but as you know, that the talent isn't enough. You know, otherwise Jimmy would have won the World Championship, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. You know, talent isn't enough. You've got to work hard. And although Jimmy was my hero, you know, I don't want to embarrass you or anything here, but I watched you and seen that you were the man that was winning everything, and said, if I want to be like that, I've got to adopt, not copy you, but adopt your way of going about things, just being more professional, and that, you know, it sort of turned things around.
In a way, I did the same with Ray Reardon. I looked at who was around and saw Ray Reardon. Why was he better? Why did he have that air of confidence around him? And it's like a superiority complex in a way, isn't it?
Of course it is.
You look at somebody and you think that they fancy the job. You know they're going to win before they do. Occasionally they'll lose, but so you look. Obviously, Jimmy White was the most exciting player on the circuit. I was winning the most.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what turned me on. I mean, I wanted to be a winner of tournaments. You know, I didn't want to be, even at sort of 14, 15 years old, watching Jimmy coming second all the time, and Alex Higgins coming second all the time. You know, I've never been a supporter of underdogs in that. Although I admired their style of play, the shots they played were phenomenal. I wanted to be up there, you know, with the trophies, and that's why I sort of had to look at you.
Tell me more. Carry on. No. So, but from a very early age, which was the way that the trends were changing, you had a manager who was still with Ian Doyle.
Yes.
So you had somebody behind you, not just parents, but somebody else behind you. From what age?
Ian sort of joined me when I was sort of 15. I'd won my second senior amateur title in Scotland and was about to turn professional. But even then, as I said, talent wasn't enough, and I wasn't putting the work in that I needed to be a success in snooker, and that's why probably I wasn't setting the world alight as an amateur. As soon as Ian joined me, he was going to, you know, financially help us for the travel and the hotels and such, but he wanted me to put a shift in every day. He wanted me to work, because he instilled at me that you get nothing out of life if you don't work for it. And I sort of started on a regime of, you know, 6, 7 hours a day, almost 7 days a week. And that's what got me, I think, where I am today.
Ian wasn't a snooker talent spotter at the time?
No, he had a snooker club in Stirling where I played a couple of amateur events. His company had an ironmongery company who actually sponsored the Scottish Championship, which I won, and that's the first time I met him. And I didn't meet him again until 2 or 3 months later. He did manage a local boy in Stirling, but he turned out to be nothing in snooker. And I think he was a snooker fan all his life, and he just wanted to get involved, and I think it was a chance we were both looking for. You know, I needed somebody. My father was fantastic for him in the early years. He'd done everything he could, but obviously it costs a lot, it takes a lot of time, and you know, I needed somebody to take over those things.
So what did you do to go about improving them when you both joined up as a team?
As I said, that's when I started, you know, looking to see who was the best in the game, which was yourself, and seeing what things you did. You know, you'll probably remember the 6-night tour we done in Scotland, whereas you know, I'm thankful for you came up and basically slaughtered me for 6 nights. You treated me with the respect that you didn't have to. You could have came up and treated it as 6 exhibitions, but you didn't do it, and I was, you know, people were telling me you were going to clubs and still practicing 3-4 hours during the day. Whether they were telling the truth, you might tell me no, you weren't, and destroy the myth.
Can't remember. I think we were travelling around quite a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, but the fact that you were treating me with respect and not just doing it as exhibitions. You know, if there wasn't a dodgy shot on, you wouldn't take it on just to throw the crowd. You would tuck me up behind the yellow, and it was torture for me. But I learned a lot that week.
It's very funny how people say to me, and players who are, you know, very good players have come up to me and said, "Do you know, Steve, the worst thing you ever did was going up to Scotland, playing Stephen Hendry, and in effect teaching him how to play."
Yeah, I was getting lessons and getting paid for it. It was fantastic.
Well, I got paid for it as well. But I mean, so you believe that was what percentage instrumental in you becoming the player you are today?
It was a big hit. I mean, about a week later, I went and won the Scottish Professional Championship.
Right.
And basically, I played the other Scottish professionals and knew that if I missed, they were going to give me more chances. Whereas I knew if I missed against you, I wasn't going to get any more chances. And that sort of gave me a great confidence to know that they weren't going to win the frame as soon as I missed. It sort of made me think, well, I can afford a couple of misses. I can go for my shots, and I can afford to miss one. I'm not going to get punished, sort of thing.
So you can't beat playing better players than yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Is the lesson.
Absolutely. I mean, you can practice all the hours that God sends, but you need that experience of match practice against someone better than you.
Okay, so with that in mind, just a thought that crossed my mind, and I don't know how you view this because I never really asked you the question. You, throughout the whole of the 90s, were the best player in the world, are the best player in the world, still world champion this year. Okay, John Higgins comes along as a younger player than yourself. Why would you deign to play him in practice, or any of the other young Scottish players, with a view to in a way you're saying you're helping them improve?
Yeah, I suppose in the back of your head you're never really believing that they're going to be up there competing with you. I mean, I'm sure when you played me, you never thought, well, he's, in a few years he's going to be competing. He's going to be my rival. I'm sure you never, deep down. I didn't with John Higgins. I knew he had a lot of talent, and I knew if he kept improving at the rate that I'd improved when I was that age, he had a chance to do well as a professional. I never dreamed that he would get to number one. That's not to say I don't think the world of him. I think he's a fantastic player because he is. But I think when you're playing with them when they're young, as I said, you probably deep down don't think, well, he might come back and, beat me one day. You don't think like that when you're playing with them. And and as I say, I wouldn't practice on my own for sort of 5-6 hours a day. So you need to play somebody, and you're not going to play a mug because there's no point. So he was the best player in the club at the time, and it's fantastic he's done what he's done.
So we're all slightly masters of our own downfall.
Probably, yeah.
Well, it's probably different in the golfing world. Just to change subject, I mean, you're a big golfing fan as well. The golfers, around the snooker circuit, one thing I've noticed compared to what appears to happen around the golfing circuit, snooker players don't talk to each other about technique and give advice. I wouldn't go up to you and say, I think I know what you're doing. You're just doing something wrong there, right? You wouldn't say to me, right? I mean, whether you should or not, perhaps some of the players somewhere down the line do, but the top players certainly don't go, you're sticking your arm out a bit there, or you're gripping the cue too tight. Golfers seem to do it all the time, don't they? Yeah,
from what I see on TV and things, there's always, someone will come out a quote, well, so-and-so seen I was doing something and point it out to me, and now I can only think that it's because they're playing against the course and not against each other. I think if they were playing knockout competitions week in, week out, I don't think there's any way they would do it. I think golf on the day is you against the course and how well you can play on that day. If every tournament was match play, I can't imagine anyone giving anyone advice. I just couldn't see it.
Hendry's in a little bit of trouble here. He can see the two reds to the left, but he can't work out a safety shot from there. He doesn't really want to play those if he can help it. Maybe forced to taking on a pot. And that is often when Hendry is at his most dangerous. What a super shot.
My impression of you in very early years were one of absolutely undoubted raw talent, but a bit open as a player.
Yeah.
And so you commit suicide. But strangely enough, the style of play that was the 80s style, which was built on the type of player of Ray Reardon, Cliff Thorburn, Terry Griffiths, and myself, Dennis Taylor, now is defunct.
Yeah.
It's gone. The style that you played then, which was a much more aggressive open game, that in a way I penalised you for it.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden is the way you've got to play.
Yeah. Even the way I was winning tournaments, even that is looking sort of, I'll refuse shots. Maybe it's because I'm getting on a bit now. I'm 31, but I'm starting to refuse shots, and I don't know if it's the same shots I was refusing then. Probably not. But now it's even more attacking. I think players are taking on shots now that are and getting them that are phenomenal. I mean, the likes of Ronnie, Mark Williams, Stephen Lee are just playing such an attacking game, which I think I was the first one to do that. You had to get in quickly and make your points. And I couldn't do it in the beginning against yourself because I was getting punished every time. And it took me a lot of beatings to sort of learn. But yeah, I mean that is the way snooker is now. I mean, as you say, the likes of those players that they were doing well in the 80s are now can't cope with it nowadays.
But also, of course, throughout the 90s or the late 80s, you were improving as well. And so, what in a day's play in the sort of late 80s, the standard you were producing of what you turned into match play of making how many 500, approaching 500 century breaks in competitive play. I think double the next player in the game. In practice, say you played 6 or 7 hours a day in practice. What would be, just for the average player at home who perhaps makes a 50 every now and again, what would a player like yourself be making? How many 100 breaks per day would you be making?
It's actually, I mean, some days I would play and not make one, which probably people would find surprising, but centuries is obviously all about the balls, what way the balls run and stuff, but on average I would probably make 2 or 3 a day in practice, playing for sort of 2 or 3 hours with somebody in a match. But I've always got a great buzz out of making centuries. Even in practice, I ask my opponent, what I'm on, because I never count my own score. And even if it's like 3 or 4 reds, I know I've won the frame, I'll still ask him how many, because I still get a buzz of going for centuries, and I always have done. Some players in matches will get to 70, win the frame, and have a go, and not bother about the century. I've always wanted to clear the table every time. And, 500 centuries, it won't matter. It's not, won many more titles. It's not, but to me, it's another achievement.
You got a fleet of cars.
Well, I did have. As I say, I'm getting old. I'm getting through that.
Are you getting through that? You go through that phase. You've got a fleet of cars. Made 7-1-4-7 breaks in competitive play, which I just find astonishing.
That is a wonderful shot.
Yeah, I needed to punch that with the rest. Gone on a little bit, white, but shouldn't really have a problem with the screen. Almost straight. And this full house here at the Diamond Centre Rushden, I think, are about to see their first 147 live. There's 15 or so lads at the back of this room that you haven't seen yet, just come to see how the great players play with their tutor from the local snooker club. Now, a lot depends on knocking this pink into that middle pocket and just getting a little bit of action on the cue ball back to the black. Well, he can't miss this, believe it or not. Here's a 147 with the final black, an absolute perfect break. You can't do any better than that. Stephen Hendry then takes frame number 5 with a magnificent clearance, a maximum break of 147.
7 times you've done it.
Yeah.
What's the feeling like now? I mean, I can only talk about the one. I did one 147 break, and I've had a couple of chances every now and again.
You got a good prize for that as well, didn't you?
I got a wonderful prize for mine. What's the best you've won for one of your 147 breaks?
I haven't been actually. I mean, I've won 2 or 3 cars without trying to sound blasé about it. But obviously, the World Championship, there's almost 200 grand, and it's probably
a 147 break.
It's probably the only time in snooker where you actually are doing something for the money. Where you actually take a chance in a break, and it's only for money. It's not for a trophy. It's not for anything like that.
So you won 200 grand for one of them. I think you won 100,000 for another one.
I can't remember.
Car-wise, what have you won in cars?
I've won 3 Vauxhalls.
3
in the last 2
Vauxhalls.
seasons, yeah.
Vauxhall Vectras, nice car.
A Skoda.
You won a Skoda as well?
Yep.
Oh, now you're getting down to my level. I made my 147 break, which was the first ever televised break, and I got a Lada, which I can only say was just wrong timing. There was nothing wrong with it
as well, didn't you?
If I get the chance.
Well, come on, Steve. Pull a fabulous shot out. I'm sure you can do it. And he's playing this with a lot of screw to stay on the black. Come on, get in. Fabulous shot. Fabulous shot. And this is it. The first 147 break on television.
140.
Well, I'm shaking.
And I'll
Quiet, please.
bet
This
Steve
is it.
at this moment can see the pocket closing up and closing up and
Come
getting
on, Steve.
smaller.
No. Absolutely magnificent break. Oh, an incredible match. Absolutely fantastic. Just listen to the audience. He's got a standing ovation for that, and rightly so. Absolutely incredible break.
Earliest memories in watching you and beating Doug Mountjoy to win your first title. But all through the 80s, as I say, I used to enjoy watching Higgins and White, but then was sort of, you know, watching you just winning everything was to me, who even at that age, not even being a professional, I thought was awesome. You know, and that's the thing that I think people in Britain don't appreciate, as how, you know, the 80s obviously didn't appreciate what it took for you to be that good and what it takes for me to be that good, and anyone in sport who's dominating. You know, in America, you look at Tiger Woods and they just idolise him. You know, they want him to keep winning more and more and more and more. But here they don't, and it's a sad thing, I think.
How do you think that has any relevance to how you play now, or any time throughout the 90s? Has it made you better, worse, indifferent?
I've never really bothered about it, to be honest.
It's obviously something you can deal with, same as me.
Absolutely. I mean, I
used to get booed on.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, I've had that often. Obviously, every time you play Jimmy, you can expect that. But playing Jimmy in 4 World Finals, obviously 98% of the crowd wanted him to win. But I loved it. I used to love, you know, snicking it down their throats. Basically, you go out and you know they don't want you to win, and it makes you try harder. You know, I played Jimmy White at Wembley, where obviously it's his biggest support and most, you know, his loudest support. And I remember one night beating him 6-0. I just enjoyed every minute of it. I just, you know, the fact of keeping that crowd quiet and it gave me great satisfaction. I mean, obviously, all of us would like to be.
And it's nothing personal. It's just
absolutely. I mean, all of us would like to be as popular as Jimmy, have the crowds cheering from the rafters when we walk out. But I'm sure Jimmy himself would trade, you know, that popularity for the titles that yourself and I have won.
You're a good sulker, aren't you?
I'm one of the best sulkers ever to come out of Scotland.
I've done my fair share of sulking in the world of snooker, and I think some of the great interviews have been myself and your post-match interviews when we've got beaten when we shouldn't have done, not much said. How do you feel after?
I think the fact that we've been so successful is because we hate losing so much, and I think that's the same in any sport. I think if you're a good loser, you're a loser full stop. I think you've got to hate losing with a vengeance, and you know that when you lose, you don't want that to happen for the next tournament. Some defeats you can take better than others, and you can go in and you can talk to the press, but sometimes you're just totally gutted. You know, I've been through press conference, and literally there might be 7 or 8 questions, and I've said 2 words. It's basically just a shake of the head or a nod of the head, and it's looking back, it's you know, you think spoilt brat and throwing toys at the pram, but nobody understands, I don't think, unless they've been involved in sport. You know, they always say, you know, look at the things in life you could be. You know, you could be ill. You could look at people in, you know, other countries that can't afford to eat.
Of course.
But
we're doing interviews 10 minutes afterwards.
Sport is different from that. There's no feeling in the world like losing at sport.
You did come out with one of the great quotes about a player. Just to remind you, about a player who you have a very bad record against. He's played you 3 times, I think, and he's not lost. But I think it's Mark Johnson. And apparently the quote was, whether you said it or not, but I think it was a marvellous thing to say. Was that what was the line?
I did say it.
Oh,
I'm ashamed to say I did say it.
Say the words again. Let's see what you said.
I lost for the 3rd time. I played horrendously, and Mark had played well, and I came in the press room, and you do the press interviews literally as soon as you come off the table. So I was still boiling. And I says, I can't believe I've lost him 3 times. He shouldn't even be at the same table as me. and as soon as I said it, I thought, oh no, because you know, then you can't say to them, oh look, I never really said that, because they've got to write good articles. And I seen Mark in the next tournament. I apologised. And shit. Look, I didn't mean that. I was gutted. And the same thing last year, I lost 9-0 to Marcus Campbell.
Of course, yeah.
And
well, I wasn't going to mention that, but now you mentioned it. Let's talk about that. No.
And the press conference, and they said, well, you know, what happened and stuff. I says, Marcus played well. I says, you know, I played very poorly. But Marcus played well. It was a terrible, you know, he's not a tournament winner. And I wasn't saying it. I didn't mean to be you know, nasty about it, but he took it the wrong way. A lot of people took it the wrong way, and you know, it's history now. But it's a bad time to catch me after I've lost. I don't really think about.
Well, you haven't had too many bad press conferences over the 90s, and of all the 7 World Championships that you've won, which do you think is your greatest achievement?
I don't know. I honestly don't know which one. It was the second or third, and I won every match comfortably. I beat Jimmy in the final with a session to spare, and although it probably watching it wouldn't be the most exciting snooker, it gave me the most satisfaction. Just for the standard of snooker I played from round 1 straight to the final.
I don't understand how you can win a tournament without getting anybody excited and you don't get called boring, and I do.
I mean, they do. I mean, obviously, I actually did a TV thing the following week, and the interview actually said, "Don't you think you're making snooker boring?" Which, you know, my only reply was, you know, I'm only doing what, you know, I'm good at. I'm working hard. You know, I work hard on the practice level table to get to that level. And I'm just doing what comes naturally. I'm you know, playing as if I'm winning.
But I don't think your standard of snooker's ever been boring, because I think you bring to the game a bit more of a tightrope walk than most players who have won any tournaments before. Because you're always sticking your neck out in a way. You go for a lot more shots than a lot of players do, and you get a hell of a lot of them as well.
I think down the years, my biggest weakness in my game is shot selection. Definitely, it's cost me a lot of matches and tournaments. Just playing the wrong shot at the wrong time.
But if they come off, of course,
if they come off, you look a hero. But if they don't, people say, "Well, I can't believe that shot he's played." You know. But that's the way I've always played snooker. The way I enjoy playing snooker. As I say, nowadays I will refuse a lot more than I perhaps did 10 years ago. But you know, you sort of in the beginning you don't really realise what's going to happen when you miss. You don't think about the consequences. Whereas if you've been punished a few times, as I was by yourself and other professionals, you think, oh, if I miss this, you know, I might lose a frame, and it gives you that second thought that you never had before.
In a percentage of the public's eyes, you are also 95% responsible for Jimmy White not winning the World Championship. What percentage of you actually feels a bit guilty for that?
I think most people in snooker would love to see Jimmy winning the World Championship, even the players, although they wouldn't like to see him doing it against them. The time where it went down to the final frame with Jimmy and I, and he looked like he was going to win it, he was clearing up. I must admit, I was gutted, but a tiny percent of me, as you say, was sort of pleased for him. You know, he was going to win. Yes, you know, and I looked up to my family and friends in the balcony, and you know, before he played that black spawn, you know, it's done. You know, I'm out, and you know, good luck to him. But
then
when he missed it,
you got out of your chair, and what a break that was!
Oh, absolutely. I haven't been thrown a lifeline. You know, it's just whether you're up to the job of taking it, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like someone stuck a rocket up my backside. The speed I got out of that chair was frightening, and you know, luckily took the chance.
The famous trophy, won first by Joe Davis in 1927, and won now for the 4th time by Stephen Hendry.
Well, you're quite a shy person in some ways. I think I was more introverted, and I don't think particularly, being as candid as possible, that many of the players liked me in the 80s.
Yeah.
But you're very well liked on the circuit, yeah? I mean, I know you don't have a shot. There's good banter, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, without being obviously, you're what, in your 40s now. I think a lot of the players now are more or less the same age, and they've got the same interests, music, films, whatever, and they can chat and talk. I think when I first came in the scene, you know, another thing which I must admit I didn't mind about yourself is that you would just walk right past people. I never thought ignorant sod, but some people did, and I heard people saying that about you. But you know, but then I sort of look, when I started winning, I look back and think, well, he's there to win. He's there to do a job. He's there, you know, get in the zone and win the tournament, and then there's plenty of time for, you know, having a laugh and joke after it. But you're right. There's more laughing and joking behind the scenes now than I think there was.
the players now seem to sort of feel that there's it doesn't matter. They can go out for a meal with a player they're playing the next day.
That's right, yeah.
And still
yeah.
play well on the day. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't even talk to the person for 2 or 3 days before if you were playing them. It's all totally
Yeah,
changed. That.
yeah. I mean, I've been in the same car as obviously stablemates as I going to matches to play them, which I must admit I'm not too comfortable with. But you know, we have done it sometimes, and you have to go on the table, and I've never had a problem, you know, with getting myself, you know, ready to play like a friend on a table. But I can see how it would be a problem for some people.
At one stage, I was the only player managed by my manager Barry Hearn.
Mm.
Then, well, more or less, yes. And then all of a sudden, in quite a short space of time, it was decided that it was worthwhile signing up other players.
Mm.
And in a very short space of time, we actually signed up people that had beaten me. Dennis Taylor.
You must have loved that.
Didn't make much difference to me. It didn't really make much. Honestly, it didn't make. 1% of me felt a bit aggrieved, but not really, because I understood that, you know, there was business involved as well.
Yeah.
Now, you are in a similar situation. All of a sudden, there was Stephen Hendry and Ian Doyle. The next minute, Ian went mad. He went berserk.
Yeah.
How many players in the
I
stadium?
think at the last count is around about 20 odd
20
players.
players.
Yeah.
Obviously, he must have made it clear to those players that you're the number one.
Yeah.
Not number one in number one. You don't play. It's not like a racing driving thing. But you know, his sentiments are with you. But how do you feel when you know he's then got to be going in the dressing room and geeing somebody else up?
I don't think he's never been one for sort of geeing. I mean, he used to gee me up when it was just him and I at tournaments. But I think if it's 2 players against each other, he stays very impartial. He won't come into my dressing room. He maybe come in and say good luck, and he'll go under and say good luck. But he won't, you know, because you couldn't do that. You couldn't have one player, you know, because the dressing rooms for one point are quite close together. Imagine if your opponent was in one dressing room, you could hear Ian giving me all that, you know, geeing up, and I'm playing one of his other players. So. No, I think he does pretty well at remaining impartial in matches, but I think all the players know that I am, you know, he's number one sort of thing, and always will be, no matter where I am in the rankings. But every player gets the same treatment off the table as I do.
Off the table, you probably haven't put yourself out as much as I have off table.
Yeah.
In a way, the new players, in a way, don't really need to. There's
No.
plenty of prize money. You don't
Yeah.
need to. And also, I'm from a slightly different background. In as much as when I started playing, exhibitions were 50%, if not more, of how a player earned his money.
Yeah.
You learnt the trade of entertaining. Now we've come to where snooker's become a pure sport.
Yeah,
And we play just to win.
that's right.
Okay, so it's harder perhaps to have learnt the trade of in the world of entertainment. But you are now 10 years in the public eye. How do you cope with that?
I'm comfortable with it. As I say, you just get used to it. Obviously, I've been doing sort of newspaper interviews since I was 13, 14 years old. I've been on TV since I was, you know, junior pot black when I was 14. You just become comfortable with it. You become used to it. But as far as exhibitions and stuff, I did do my fair share in the beginning. But as I say, now there's so many tournaments, you haven't got time to go in the circuit as well as play tournaments. I mean, the top 4 in the rankings now, I bet, you know, none of us know a trick shot between us, or could play one, you know. So
you're not
that
after
side
my
of the
World
game is
Trick
gone.
Shot Championship title then?
No, you're pretty safe there.
Thanks.
You know, I couldn't go out in front of people and tell a joke and just talk and be funny. You know, it's just something I've never been taught to do. I've never been interested in doing, and I'm sure that the other top players aren't either. But that part of the game is gone, I think, as far as the top players, which is a shame, really.
You must probably find the same as me, that people that don't know you are wary of you. Then all of a sudden, when you get the chance to meet people, you probably leave them with a good impression.
Yeah.
And I found that throughout quite a lot of the 80s. That it was quite a nice feeling walking out of a room. It was a better feeling walking out of the room
Definitely.
than walking in.
People have their impressions of you before you go in, whether you're big-headed, you're miserable, you never smile, or arrogant, or whatever. You know, I get it all the time. You know, I still go to the supermarket with my wife shopping and whatever, and people can't believe that you go to a supermarket. And I think, well, you know, where am I going to buy food? You know, just because I'm on TV and famous doesn't mean to say I don't do the same things as everybody else. And you know, the public sort of sometimes they can't quite grasp that you've got a life away from being on TV.
You're married to Mandy with a boy. He was, now, how old is he?
He's 3 years old now, yeah.
He's 3 years old, but I don't time flies. Oh, your hobbies are golf, I know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, apart from being with my family, so I haven't got a lot of time for much else really. My snooker career takes up 8, 9, sometimes 10 months of the year. I get 2 months off, as most players do in the summer, where there's no snooker. I spend time with my family, go on holiday, I play a bit of golf.
A bit?
Well, 3-4 times a week in the summer.
Handicap, just for the public, just the official handicap. Just
9.3.
9.3, that's around a very difficult course.
Yeah, I live right next to Glen Eagles. I've been a member there for 10, 12 years, and it's great.
We played on tour, and it's like there are some decent golfers on the scene, but everybody that sees you swing club says you're like professionals down. I mean, you must be playing it all the time. I mean,
it must be my practice swing. But yeah, I mean, I play to a good standard. You know, I can win the odd fiver here and there, and you know, I get called a few names here and there, which is always a good sign. You get called a name at golf. You're starting to get called a few names now and then.
I'm improving slowly. I should probably watching you play. Well, because we played as a team. We have played doubles, if not as a snooker team.
Yeah.
We played doubles out in China. We had some quite amazing games with, because the Chinese lads do like a gamble. And
some strange rules as well.
Some very strange rules. I wouldn't say cheating. They don't cheat.
I would.
You would. We played a doubles game with those two lads, and what were you playing for? Was it about 10 or a shot? Or
we played at this. I've never played a game like it. We played a game where it was doubles, but if they took a combined 9 and we took a combined 7, then we got $20 or whatever it was. It was a difference in shots, and each shot was $10. It was 100. It was 100. It was about a tenner each. Yeah, it was 100 the local currency, and it ended up with 10 each. But we won a few quid. But I mean, these guys were like multi squillionaires, but they were still, you know, every trick in the book to try and get an edge on us.
Usually they play for $1,000 US a shot.
Yeah.
And they toned it down for us.
Yeah.
And they made it. I think it was $100 US a shot, or 100, whatever it was. But I remember thinking, I was so pleased I was going around a golf course with you, because I'm lucky. I was like 24, playing with dodgy clubs, and those two were like not much better really. One of them was a bit of a bandit off of about 18, something like that. But you can't believe how much of a security blanket you were, knowing you were like a single figures, right? And it gave me the inner confidence, right? So we're going around a golf course, and by about the 9th or 10th hole, we had money stuffed in every pocket.
Oh, it was
I just remember there was cash in here, and it's all over the place.
It was a great day.
And it was just a straight. And this guy, well, the Chinese guy, he had a little man with him with just a bankroll, and he was just
peeling them off,
giving them to us. And it was just
fantastic.
But then, of course, what happened was things started to go a bit astray, and they started hooking the ball and slicing it. I remember one shot, the guys sliced it into the jungle up on the right.
Yeah.
So he's now playing 3 off the tee. You've said to me, that's $300.
Well, he'd lose his bag if he never had a marker on his bag and the length of that grass, wouldn't he?
He hooked the next out of bounds. You've then got to me, it's $500 before we hit a ball. This is on the first one particular hole. He's then walloped one down the middle, and we've gone, oh, good shot. Counted the money as we walked down the fairway. So what happens then?
Oh, well, I couldn't believe what happened next. He sent the caddy up into this little girl, up into this jungle, and the grass this high, wasn't it? And all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, she's like, found it. You know, we got the ball. And the look on our face, we just looked at each other. We couldn't believe it.
We lost $500 each because she found we wanted to kill her.
That was frightening. But they were cheating. I mean, they were having preferred lies in the rough.
Pick and place in the rough.
Yeah, you could move it 3 inches in the rough and you know, put a tee in it and all sorts.
And then the guy played out of somebody's allotment that must have been out of bounds, because he was a cabbage next to the.
If they ever come to Scotland to play golf, they're going to get a rude awakening.
But we ended up, I think, some ridiculous, because they just gambled on everything, and in the end, we ended up in the 18th, and I had about a 12-foot putt, and they're rubbing it away in Chinese, and one of them said, I'll bet you $1,000 you can't knock this ball in like a snooker shot. So I've gone, absolutely no way, I'm in front, you're not having any of your money back. But it didn't come out like that through the translator. And so all of a sudden the other guy said, I'll stand for the bet.
Mm.
So I was on what was, because you know us, we don't play with our own money.
Yeah.
Like, we like to play with other people's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now he's standing for the bet that if I don't get it in, he pays the guy. But if I do get it in, he pays me.
And you're under no pressure.
No pressure. I like that situation. It's nice, isn't it? So I got down on my hands and knees, and you got behind and gave me the line, which was very kind of you as well.
You stroked it in.
Stroked it in like a snip with that.
And you never gave me half of that money, by the way.
Did I not?
No. It was the only thing we never split. The whole week playing golf, we split everything. But funnily enough, I was the biggest person. You sort of went away with that. But anyway, going to the next question.
When John Higgins won the car in the World Team Championships,
Yes.
obviously the teams
Didn't get a wheel.
Obviously the teams split the prize money for the highest break, don't they?
Didn't get a wheel.
And John Higgins made a 147 break. He's first in competitive play. The prize was a Vectra car worth
20 grand.
£20,000. Did the team split that particular prize?
As I said, didn't get a wheel.
Didn't get a ride in the car?
We split the, I think it was £1,500 or £2,000 highest break prize between us, and he got the car.
Not even a ride in it.
Not yet, anyway.
So basically, all the players you play with are quite tight when it comes to large amounts.
Snooker players have got quite a reputation, yeah.
7 world titles. You must have been delighted to have won the 7th.
Oh, the 7th was the best in terms of satisfaction and the thrill of winning.
You'd had a couple of disappointments.
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing to Ken, that would have been 6 in a row, and for the 7th, that was a disappointment to go all the way to the final and lose. I think I lost to Jimmy in the first round the year after that, so that was, never even got close. But to win the 7th after everything that happened to me last season, well, the bad snooker and losing 9-0 and everybody, not everybody writing me off, but people were starting to say, is this the end, the beginning of the downfall and stuff. So it gave me fantastic satisfaction to prove everyone wrong, and it was a tough draw as well all the way through, which made it even better. No one could say, well, they had a good draw. It was great.
Happy that he beat my record? It's
Delighted.
not just my record, by the way. It's
No, it's Mr. Reardon's as well. Yeah, no, it was, my sort of last remaining ambition in snooker. Obviously I'd won a lot of tournaments and stuff, but there was no targets that I could really, get my teeth into and say that's my next big target, and that was it. And to achieve it was a phenomenal feeling.
Right, we've got 7 world titles already. I fancy you to win at least another one. I don't know about you yourself. It's getting harder, I know. But what are your targets for the next 5 years in snooker? Because I remember once in an interview you said you were retiring at the age of 30.
I think it was 25, the first one, and then 30, and then I've always set myself targets to achieve a certain amount of things by that time, and then I've said, well, if I have achieved them, then we'll think what happens next. But obviously I love playing snooker, I still love playing snooker, I still love competing. I don't know how you feel about it, but I can't see a time where I'll enjoy going to tournaments and not think my chances are good of winning it. I'm not saying that you think like that now, of course, but I wouldn't enjoy that. For me, the winning is everything. And to go to a tournament and think, well, I don't think I can win this. I think the players are too good for me. I think that would be the time where I'd want to stop. So I think I've got another 4 or 5 years at the top, still winning tournaments and still competing.
But any targets within that?
Obviously to win the World Championship again, to try and get back to #1. That's a tremendous challenge to have. It'll be very, very difficult because there's so many players that are capable of doing it, competing for that #1 ranking now. But I don't believe that there's anyone out there playing a standard that's too good for me. I still believe on my day I'm better than everyone else, as I'm sure John Higgins does, as I'm sure Ron O'Sullivan does. You've got to have that self-belief. But those are my main ambitions. Obviously, you still beat me by 1 tournament and on total tournaments won.
Do I?
Yes.
Oh.
so that's obviously another one to go for. There's a lot of tournaments still to be won, I think.
Well, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. It's a strange thing to do after all these years, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable. Good luck in your future career. If you're playing me, that's obviously, we can cancel that statement. But you've graced the snooker world for so long now that you've been part of it, and you've produced some phenomenal snooker. It's been a pleasure to watch you and a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Steve.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.